what we call disaggregation techniques to reallocate exposure into these areas. This is a process which we've developed using satellite imagery, we have to use satellite imagery when we don't have good geocoding data. So we inherently are going to underestimate or overestimate the losses. But this is a technique that we have to use when we don't have better geocoding or better exposure information. So just to move on to the next slide, I'll work through what we have to do in the absence of good geocoding. If we can move to the next slide, please.
Sorry, there's just a little delay.
Right, so as I said, I mean, we have to use satellite imagery to do what we call a impervious surface analysis, where we look for areas of, well, urban areas, which are taken from various classifications within the satellite imagery itself. What you're seeing on the screen is the white areas being urban areas, and we can detect these within the imagery, and we can break it down into what we call polygons, and we continue to break it down as we move through the slide. Sort of define the outlines of the urban areas, and then in this last image here you can see that we're able to kind of make an assessment and a judgment of how much insured value to allocate to each area, and it's literally a percentage. So just to emphasize that when we don't have good information, we have to resort to a technique like this, which is actually quite useful where it's appropriate to do it, and in the absence of better information, it's sometimes all we have. Obviously, it contains a degree of uncertainty, so we have to acknowledge that. And as I mentioned before, we don't always know enough there is to know about what the buildings are made of. So this is just a very quick example of how we've used satellite imagery to classify the construction, or sorry, in this case, the number of floors of a building. So we used, well, this was a research network activity actually. After the BAM earthquake, we used to classify buildings. So we need more information to get a better grip of the exposure that we're dealing with.